Finally starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so we're moving from Rockman 1 to Rockman 2. In the previous game, it made no difference that we played on a Japanese card. In that case, the only difference was the title screen. This time it matters. There are actually some pretty big differences. In the original Japanese version, there were no difficulties. Instead, Capcom decided that the game was too hard for a pussy Western audience. So they added an easier difficulty, which they called normal. So right now they are playing what in the US release is the difficult version. And also thanks to Japanese text being much shorter and them changing nothing about the text speed, the cutscenes are over 42 seconds shorter in this version. The physics engine is the same mostly as in Mega Man 1. It will change. It got completely rewritten between 2 and 3, but right now the jumps work similarly. You can still get inside walls and zip through them, which is going to be a major part of the speedrun as soon as we get some items to facilitate that. The speedrun route is designed around that. We're starting from Flashman stage, where we get item 3. It's not actually the biggest one. Again, the main one that we're going to use later is item 1, which we're going to get from Heatman stage. But again, Flashman stage doesn't get a whole lot faster with items, and having item 3 speeds up the Heatman stage a lot. So, well, yeah. So Flashman fight. This is one of the more technical boss fights in the whole series. It's It looks really sweet when you do it correctly, and it's not super hard, but when you do mess up something, the whole fight goes off the rails, and as Ahmad is demonstrating us completely on purpose. Meanwhile, Rufio is waiting for the famous weapon get screens in Mega Man 2. Now imagine these but like 10 seconds longer, and that's the Western version. So anyway, the weapon from Flashman doesn't actually get used much. We use it in Quickman stage, where the infamous Quickman beams become actually impossible when you do a kind of screen desync from zipping on the previous screen. We're gonna get to that later. Besides that, it can be used for a couple of safety threats, but that's about it. And Rufio doing some precise platforming here before we soon switch into item 3 for the first time, and we're gonna start seeing some tricks that are going to define the rest of the run. The first zip is going to be set up on the screen after this one. The thing is that the game doesn't check ceiling collision unless you are jumping. So, and the items don't despawn unless there's a ceiling on top of the very middle point of them. So putting item 3 up to a wall like that means that it's gonna like climb up to the ladder, but when you position yourself on the very edge of it, you still get pushed up the ceiling, which lets us set up the statement we are looking for, which is our head in the ceiling. There's I think one zip in the game that are done similarly as in Mega Man 1, using item 2 to set up a pixel perfect position to zip from, but most of the zips in the run are like this, using either item 1 or item 3 at the corner of the ceiling to push yourself up the wall like that, which is much easier to do than those frame perfect zips. Oh, nice. Rufio's time loss from falling down there happened to be almost exactly the same time as what Ahmad lost in the Flashman boss fight, so we're close to even again. Keeping the race exciting, totally on purpose. So he's going to be the biggest single source of randomness in the game. After Heatman takes damage, he can do this invulnerable pose for either 31, 62 or 93 frames. And here you can see both players. Yeah, both players. They're kind of buffering that. They first do a full jump and then a small jump at the first possible timing. Heatman can jump at you. Then in the middle of the jump, they have to react really quickly to whether Heatman jumped at them or not. If he did, they go through with the jump. If they didn't, they really quickly pull back and repeat. this for all the 3 possible timings, and it saves like frames every time. All it basically does compared to just taking some distance and reacting to his jump is that his jump is shorter, so you save that much time. But if you're used to it, it doesn't really cost you anything to go for it. Then up to the airman stage, where we're gonna get the item 2, the last one of the enabling items. They're gonna do some really precise platforming on the first screen. Rufio goes for flash, and Ahmad goes too. You can again save the time it takes for a single menu by switching to item 1 early and doing some really precise jumps on the edges of the platforms there. Some people are crazy enough to go for that in marathon runs. Most of us aren't. And here. And yeah, both players make it through. Excellent. It's good. You can damage boost through them, which makes it a lot easier. It's still kind of hard, but not nearly as bad as landing on the edges of platforms. But on difficult, you need to conserve some health for the airman fight. If you take damage on all of them, it's up to RNG whether airman gives you patterns that you can dodge. He can give you impossible patterns, and if these guys had any less life, they would die if they got 3 undodgeable ones in a row. Here they are getting the bird to despawn from the left side of the screen because they did a really quick turnaround in the middle of the jump at the very time that the bird was going to spawn. The bird spawns from the side of the screen that you're looking at, so it's a bit trickier to manipulate here. We're going to see it later during some ladder climbs. Also, on the very first screen I mentioned, they manipulated the bird by jumping at a very specific, I think it's 4 or 5 frame timing, where they jumped on the egg, manipulate the small birds to spawn in a certain pattern, which causes 2 of them to fly directly right on the screen and prevent the next bird from spawning. And now this is the last time we're gonna see the long weapon get animation. For the rest of the 5 stages it would have ended here, since we're not getting these items, which are the longer part. Coming up next is a Crashman stage, where they're gonna do a really tricky sequence of zips starting from the very first screen. So one thing about this game that comes into play here is that the stages aren't actually laid out in a full map geometry. Like the way they are stored in the game's memory is that it's just there's a screen 1, screen 2, and so on, and each screen separately declares which way you can exit from it. So once you use a zip to go past the screen boundary like that, you wrap to the next screen, and kind of poorly handled things happen. So right now, Ahmad got the zip as intended. Rufio missed a really strict timing that let him wrap to the top of the screen for the next one, so he did a backup and got the zip slower. They traverse to several screens that are slower than normally, and get past the checkpoint room, where they take an intentional death to die, which resynchronizes the screen position between what you can see on screen and where the level geometry is. Meanwhile, Ahmad has up to the Clash Crime. There's a window of I think it's 4 pixels where you can place the item tree so that it will immediately land on top of it. And also you can do the same after a screen scroll, where you get a slight boost when you first start climbing. So in those cases you can do it easier. But again, just like in Mega Man 1, climbing a ladder is really slow, so they want to do as much of the climb as possible by jumping instead of climbing. It's not super hard to do if you want to do a few of those, but in the middle of that climb there was one screen where they got 3 of them, and those timings get pretty tight. Then moving on to the Quickman stage. So I mentioned briefly that the Quickman beams section becomes actually impossible the way these guys do it. We see the same kind of a screen desynchronization as in the last stage. In this stage it's only one screen, so they can restore it by wrapping to the left at one point during the beam section, which moves them back one screen and locks them back to the intended position. There, Ahmad jumped into the enemy. It's like half on purpose. He meant to land on the very edge of a platform, which would slow his fall down enough to make it past the ledge on the next screen. And here you can see Ahmad walking inside the wall. You can briefly see the screen that he's actually on after the screen scroll, after which it snaps back to the wrong one. And here you can see the wrap left, which returns him to the correct position. So yeah, I think it's the second screen where the combination of the previous screen platforms that they are actually on and the beams on the current screen, where they combine in a way that actually makes it impossible to get through without flash stopper. Ahmad attempting a frame perfect zip here. He doesn't get it. So basically there's exactly one frame window where you get to this zip one tile lower. If you're too late, you get what Ahmad got just now. You just zip normally and don't get any extra. If you're one frame too early, you just fall down and don't get anything. Rufio gets it, so as a reward he gets an extra little zip on the boss corridor. And in the Crashman fight, I'm gonna get a pretty decent one. You can fire the bomb at the wall and have it explode, which conserves ammo, but it's faster to just keep firing into him if you don't mess up any of your shots. Woodman stage is gonna see our longest zip sequence in the run. At first, Ahmad is gonna zip over these wolves here. These are pretty tricky since there are some slight differences in how you zip on different screens. In this one, since you can scroll to the screen upward, you can't do the normal like wiggling that we usually do, where you use jumping to force yourself to only move by one frame. And it's much harder to get the precise stop where you want. So in any of these zips where you see the screen scroll, you need to face right exactly on the last tile of the screen, which is frame perfect if you want to just stop there without having to do this wiggling that you see them doing. And yeah, just as I'm talking about it, Rufio helpfully demonstrates us again what's going on. He overzips one screen and he doesn't get the screen scroll, so he needs to walk back for a bit to restore his position and get back into the game. So Ahmad completed the long zip sequence while Rufio's just getting into it. In this one, there's no individual thing here is any more complex than anything we've seen before. It's just a really long sequence of it. We're gonna do a bunch of screen wraps. Right now, Rufio is walking through the bamboo platforms at the top of the stage. If you're familiar with the Woodman stage as it's played normally, he's gonna get a ladder boost, get inside the wall. Now he's in a section where he's moving downwards after the bamboo platforms. This gets really weird because the screen scrolls are kind of messed up. On the screen layout he's actually on, he's moving down, but the way forward on the screens that are visible is upward, so it's kind of wrapping around two screens at a time. Ahmad got, I think the metal zip is the one in the run that saves the most amount of time individually. It's also one of the easier ones. He has a soft lock chance if Ahmad gets the frame perfect zip, as in Quickman. And soon we're gonna see the Metal Man fight, where he's gonna use his weakness Quick Boomerang. Normally, Metal Man jumps at you when you cross the screen center point or when you fire at him. But since Quick Boomerang you can fire by holding down B, you can keep him in place with that, since it's actually pressing B that he reacts to and not the shots themselves. But Ahmad is going to purposefully trigger his jump in the very beginning of the fight, since he's also on a timer, and if he doesn't do that, he's gonna get a little less predictable jump right before the boss would die. And It's actually a bit trickier than it looks, since you need to stay on the left side of the screen to prevent Metal Man from jumping over you, and with the conveyor belt in the floor there, it's going to keep pushing you into him. So you need to be carefully jumping into place and keeping yourself in a very narrow band where the quick boomerang still reach him, but you don't go far enough to trigger the jump. And moving on to Bubble Man stage, there are two routes through this stage. There's a relatively easy one, and then there's one that does a frame perfect zip at the end of a stage. Ahmad is going for the hard stretch. I'm not actually sure which one Rufio is going for, so I'm not sure if we're gonna see the other version or not. But on this screen, you could actually use pause buffering to get this zip instead of you having to use item 1. It's the one that most people stumble upon casually, if any. In this game, pausing resets your falling velocity, so you can pause repeatedly on the previous screen to get yourself into the wall through the screen transition. And this is the frame per zip I mentioned. He needs the item 2 on a specific vertical pixel to get the zip on the spikes there. And also he needs to keep taking damage from the frogs each attempt, so that he's in invulnerability frames and doesn't just die to the spikes. So Rufio is going for the same stretch here. The other version of the stage is that you use item 2 on the very first screen, then switch to item 1 here, and use Metal Blade for the very end of the stage. It's a few seconds slower, I think, if you do this part of the stage perfectly. Now let's see how Rufio does with this zip. They're wasting energy on purpose in the very beginning there, so that ideally if they get the zip on their first real attempt, they have enough item 2 energy to take them to the end of the screen, but still have the item 1 despawn before reaching the wall, which lets them drop into the water slightly faster. And, yeah, Rufio should be safe even with this health. Bubble Man doesn't do a whole lot of damage on his projectiles. There's also a subtle RNG factor here. Bubble Man can shoot 1, 2, or 3 bubbles in the beginning, and with 3 it gets really laggy, and well, 2 is still laggier than 1. So lag management is a decently big factor in this game. It's basically anytime you see significant lag, like game visibly slows down, they're losing at least half a second or more, and they can lose a pretty decent amount of frames even while hardly seeing any slowdown visibly. It's a much bigger thing in the later games where sliding is introduced, and game also gets laggier in general. Especially Mega Man 3 and 4 gets super laggy if you don't account for it. I'm just getting successfully through Wily 1 stage. This is if you're doing, say, immediate stretch in this game, you don't go for the craziest stuff. There are easier, slightly slower ways that you can do Bubble Man stage and the beginning of Glass Man stage and a few other things. But those Wily 1 zips are probably the hardest thing in the game earlier on. It's pretty tight getting those item 1 placements and jump for the screen reps. And Ahmad as the Mecha Dragon. This is one of those things common in Mega Man 2 where this is actually not super hard, but if you mess up anything at all, you just die and lose a ton of time. Mega Man 2, especially in the castle stages, is just absolutely brutal if you mess up anything. I think if you walk just slightly too far on the platform there, you touch the dragon and you fall down and die. If you mess up your timing from dropping down the bottom block, you get hit by a fireball and die. The reason Mega Dragon didn't shoot at Ahmad there is that he stayed at a very specific position to control the boss behavior. Also, there are slight ice physics everywhere in Mega Man 2. If you don't let go of D-pad after landing from a jump, when you stop running, you still slide forward for a few pixels, which is another thing that can get you killed here. And while I was, and yeah, Rufio, again, demonstrates one of the ways to fail that I just talked about. Getting just slightly too far, then getting touched by the dragon, which, by the way, does huge contact damage, even if it isn't knocking you down in a pit. Now, Aman here is trying to go for very precise leaf shield timings. He didn't quite get it. If you do that absolutely perfect, the screws will get killed just before they exit the wall, and any refills that they drop will remain inside the wall and get zipped off screen. Which is, well, if you're really lucky, they won't drop anything anyway, and it doesn't make a difference, but if they drop large refills, they're actually very significant time losses. In this game, the refills happen at 8 frames a tick, so a full big refill, either health or energy, takes 80 frames. Wait, no, 180 frames. Yeah, 80 frames is correct. So 1.33 seconds. And, I'm not fighting the Wily 2 boss, Pico Pico. Nothing much going on there. Rufio will hopefully clear the dragon on the second attempt, making it exciting for us. So I missed Ahmad's Wily 2 mostly. Rufio gonna get there now, and Regna's get another chance of checking out the first zip in Wily 2 or the spikes. That one isn't actually too hard, but it's if you're not super comfortable with it, it's one of the most stressful ones, since you're setting it up while walking on spikes, and you don't have that many spare iframes past the point where you need to jump out of the spikes and into the item one. So let's see how Rufio's getting it here, taking damage here to get the iframes to walk on the spikes, and yeah, we should be good. Also, this switch to item 2 there isn't just to save a little bit of item 1 energy. You actually need to menu during that zip, because again, menuing resets your falling velocity, and if you don't do that, you fall just short of reaching the ladder there and fall down the spikes and die. I'm almost getting through Wily 3. Wily 3 is a pretty boring stage, nothing really going on there. You jump over a bunch of fish and then mash down the boss. So this boss is possible to do in 2 jumps. The tool-assisted jump that mashes at 30 frames, 30 hertz, does it in 2 jumps. It's some completely crazy people can do it in 2. I think, not sure if I can't actually even name anyone other than Elo Ninja, but 3 is what most people go for. I'm not getting it, which is actually it's much harder than I'm making it sound. Like 2 is absolutely insane, 3 is hard. Wily 4, the purple hell. This kind of like Wily 1 in that it's not really among the hardest stuff in the game, but anything that you mess up here is extremely punishing, and it's near the end of the run, so if you're on a good run, reach at this point, it's you get a ton of opportunities to kill your run over here. It's nickname Purple Hell. It's I think it's mostly earned for being difficult in casual play, but yeah, a lot of speedrunners feel the same way. I'm not showing off another pause extension to a zip while falling out of the ceiling there. This time in Clashman stage we should have first seen these platforms, but you missed them because those were what we skipped with the zips in the beginning of the stage while they were walking across the screen just casually with no obstacles. Those weren't the screens that they were walking through. Normally you can't actually wrap around the screen, the game prevents it, but when you're desynchronized that safeguard isn't there, so you can just wrap through them in an unintended direction. Oh! Okay, Ahmad begins the fight by missing one double kill here. So as you might know from casual play, you don't actually have enough crash bomb ammo to kill all these walls and the turrets. Doing the speedrun strats perfectly, you... Wait, what? Okay, so there are two possible ways to set up the damage transfer that we saw Ahmad do by running into the second turret and killing it that way. I thought Ahmad had the first setup correctly, which is very slightly faster. He would run into the top one of those lower right corner turrets after killing the walls. I'm not sure why he didn't go for it. Maybe I guess he was one pixel off that I just didn't notice in his setup. But yeah, normally you want to have 2 bombs going to this stage and use one each on both stages of the Wily machine fight. So Ahmad is one short, so he needs to use Metal Blade in one of those. And it can actually get pretty stressful if you go there on low health. Wily machine does a ton of damage. But well, he knows what he's going into. He should be playing it safe enough to get by. And ooh, nice. Oh wait, no. So one trophy you can get in that Heatman fight is that in a refight, if you do the heat dance really precisely, you can finish the fight without having him jump over you at any point. Which is not a huge time save, but it's pretty swag. I thought Ahmad got it, but he was just a bit tight on the last jump. Here's something Ahmad just did that I forgot to mention the first time around. In the beginning of the fight, he intentionally shoots left to trigger Clashman to jump. Most of these bosses have some amount of randomness. Well, Quickman is just totally random. That's actually one of the more interesting fights in the run. You just need to adapt to what he's doing. But Clashman can do jumps of 2 different heights. And if you use the strat we just saw, triggering his jump early, you have enough time to react to which one he did and have a quick kill strat for each of those. In the older strats, what you do is you just go for it and you hope he gives you a favorable jump. No. Oh. Rufio missing the 2 pixel window for the wall double kill there, so he's gonna be 1 bomb short too. Ahmad just barely getting it. So basically you have 2 ways you can handle the Wily machine fight with just 1 bomb. The first phase is much easier and much safer to Metal Blade down, but it's also a bit slower. You need to spend a bit of time dodging the shots and do an extra menu. But wait, actually no, it's less menus. But what Ahmad there just did is moving down the second phase. He moves slower, it's easier to keep spamming at him, and if you're really comfortable that you're gonna get him mashed down in time before you take too many hits, it's slightly faster. So Ahmad finally in the final boss fight of the game. He only takes damage from Bubble, and the motto here is don't touch the alien. He does like 2/3 of your life bar in one hit if you let me touch you. What he's gonna do here is intentionally take damage and time. And jump inside him, which lets him mash as fast as he can to damage him. Oh man. 28-11 with a death. That's pretty insane. So, Rufio still on pace for a very respectable race time here. A few years back, we were talking about how no one had managed a sub 30 in any kind of a big marathon setting. It's even back then it was kind of that we would have expected some people to get it. Now it's pretty common since the strats have developed a bit and people have had more time to grind this game, get more consistent at it. So it's not unheard of anymore by any means, but still it's a very unforgiving game. It requires you to just not make a single mistake in the certain end game spots where any sleep up costs you 2 minutes. Right, let's see how Rufio is gonna handle the machine fight. Oh, Rufio going for the second phase kill too. Well, he should have enough health here to take a couple of hits. Okay. Oh, doesn't even need 2. The Rufio also going the final stage. And another thing I kind of missed while Ahmad was here was that Again, the door crashed into the boss room. To get it to scroll, you need to be facing right on the very edge of the screen, which if you do it directly from the zip, it's a frame perfect input. Instead, these guys will try to stop a little early and then do this wiggling here to get to the door. If you overzip, then your wrapper on the screen can't get the scroll into the boss room and need to kill yourself. So that drops and start again. Rufio getting into nicely and getting into the final fight. I think the fastest fight, like realistically possible, is ending the fight here. It's really hard. Not a surprise that if you don't get it. Ooh, messing up the second cycle is gonna get tricky, but yeah, Rufio finishes it. Say 30-41. Respectable marathon time still. But yeah, that's Rockman 2. That sweet credits music playing here in the background for a while still. And after this, I believe we have Gimmick by One Rufio first, if I'm not mistaken. Wait, where are we at the channel? Yeah, coming up next in our NES block is Gimmick by One Rufio, and after that Blaster Master by Ahmad.